Just say, I think, and I know a bunch of people serve in the IDF, and I don't believe your average IDF soldier wants to kill innocents. I just want to be really clear about that. Good. I don't think most soldiers want to do that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of them in our country, in Israel, wind up doing that because that's what war is about, and it really hurts them. And I know people who've done it personally, know them really well, and it like wrecks their lives. So, but I don't think your average soldier wants that in this country or any other. The leadership is a different question, and I want to refer you very specifically to a number of speeches the Prime Minister, your friend Benjamin Netanyahu, gave in the aftermath of October 7th.
He's probably going to talk about the Amalekites, right? That's an example they love giving.
Including one in November of that year when he referred to Amalek. Now, Amalek is a reference, a biblical reference. Of course, you'll be very familiar with that. The Amalekites were a tribe described throughout the Bible, particularly in 1 Samuel, that obstructed the Jews as they fled Egypt. And God tells Samuel to give the instructions to Saul to kill the Amalekites.
Has anyone actually made it to level 4 before? If you're slightly congested, use level 1.
And he says, and I'm sure you remember this is in 1 Samuel 15, of course, I know you know it. He says, kill the men, kill the women, kill the children, kill the infants, kill the donkeys, kill the camels, kill everything. And Saul spares the king and he spares the animals. And for that, he is punished by God. That is genocide. God is calling for genocide of the Amalekites, of Amalek. And the Prime Minister of Israel, at least once, I believe on other occasions, described the Palestinians in Gaza as Amalek. That's calling for genocide. And you know that.
I totally disagree.
Tell me then what it means.
If this was your proof that Israel is trying to commit a genocide, then explain the leaflets being released over Gaza. Explain the text messages being sent to Gazans. Explain the phone calls being sent to Gazans and the knock-knock bombs before an attack is being sent. Explain how Gazans know exactly where to place their phones before a strike on a building is coming. How do they know? Can they see the future? No, it's because they're warned. That defeats the argument of genocide. No matter what you say, no matter what argument of Amalek you bring, the systematic thing on the ground goes against genocide.
To say that Israel was attempting to commit genocide.
Also, if you look at John Spencer, who is director of urban warfare and urban warfare expert, he really displays and lays out the facts of how Israel conducted the war. And I believe after, numbers have been discussed between all parties, it's like 70,000 people, I believe, were killed, which is a horrific, terrible, awful, horrible number. But the combatant to civilian ratio was the best it's ever been in an urban war. And so that is actually the opposite of genocide, and how Israel conducted its war on the ground actually should be noted, rather than just throwing out this genocide slur over and over and over again. And like you call everyone a Nazi or a racist, it waters down the word to actual real genocide. It's not to say that it wasn't horrible and catastrophic and tragic. Of course it was. It always is. War is. But I think that's important to at least understand.
Genocide, first of all, that's simply not true.
I'm saying, what is the Prime Minister talking about? Why would he refer to the Palestinians as Amalek? What is Amalek?
You would have to ask him. I don't know. I know what Amalek is. I do understand 1 Samuel 16. I get all
15.
that.
1 Samuel 15.
But I do understand.
It's widely known. So if you say our enemy is Amalek and we are proceeding on the basis of God's commands to us, you are calling.
And by the way, he was talking about Hamas when he referred to Amalek, because if that were to be the case, then why is he not killing the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria? The Palestinians, what a made-up identity. Why is he not killing the Arabs in Judea and Samaria, right? They're also part of that Amalek, according to that argument. Why don't we just wipe them out? Because it's not against the innocent people. It's against the perpetrators who try to eradicate the Jews. Stupid argument. Stop using it.
For genocide. Tell me how I'm missing something.
Because if Israel wanted to commit genocide, they could have done it in 2.5 hours.
We can debate what's happened in Gaza. I'm asking you why the leader of this country.
Ask him.
Well, what do you think?
I don't know.
Does that bother you at all?
People, I don't know what he meant. I don't know if it was an illustrative metaphor. I think what he was saying was that
this is just Tucker trying to get him in some sort of fucking gotcha moment that he can clip and put on the internet and make Huckabee look like a, genocide fucking supporter and continue to make Netanyahu look like a war criminal. And maybe he is. That's an argument for another time. But it's like, it's a ridiculous, bad faith interview. That's what it is. It's in bad faith. He's not asking these questions because he really wants to know. He's asking them to try to make Huckabee and Israel and the IDF look bad. That's the whole point, and it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous way to interview someone. There's plenty of ways to get to the truth, and you do that by asking questions in good faith that get to the foundation of the truth.
We're not going to let anything keep us from getting our hostages back, their sons and their daughters who are being brutalized, raped, tortured, starved, beaten.
Come on, Mr. Messer.
No, I think
there are many examples of justice in the Bible, but there are
Israel
very
gets
few.
accused of genocide regularly.
I'm not accusing Israel of anything. I'm saying that the prime minister of Israel described the Palestinians
Do you think he
as Amalek.
attempted to do genocide?
I'm asking why, of all the references in the Bible, and there are many to justice and there are many to reconciliation, that is a reference to genocide, as you know, killing every man, woman, child, and infant, I'm quoting, and their animals, wiping them from the earth. And when they don't do that, they're punished. When you say that at the outset of a war, and then you wind up with massive civilian casualties, maybe not as big as...
Just like in every war, there's civilian casualties. That's the funny thing. In every war, there's civilian casualties. So you said it yourself. It's a war. It's not a genocide.
Because they were in Iraq, then I have to ask you, what is that? And is that kind of thinking consistent with Western values and with Christianity? Do we as Christians believe it's okay to kill people's children?
No, we don't. And neither do the Israelis, because they didn't go after their children. If they'd have wanted to kill all their children, Tucker, they've got the military capacity. They could have done it in less than a day.
I've heard you say that.
I know.
I mean, I guess
So
they could have done it. Okay, but
why didn't they? Why didn't they?
I think there are a lot of decent people in Israel who don't want that. But I'm talking...
Do you think that the prime minister wanted to wipe out every single person in Gaza? Do you
I'm
really
asking
think that?
you what you think is the U.S. representative of our government.
That's how he escapes the question, guys. Always, I'm asking you what you think. But it's exactly what Tucker thinks. And that's what he wants his audience to think. What a despicable human being.
Don't think that that's what he wanted to do.
Yes, agreed. Once again, it's in bad faith. Nothing he does is in good faith or to get to the truth or to hold himself or people accountable or to actually improve his audience knowledge of the subject. It's to ask questions in bad faith. So we have this bullshit gotcha moments so he can have his people who work for him clip it and put it on YouTube and X and make everyone look like shit and continue to attack and hate the Jews. And all this shit is a spiral. It's ridiculous.
Because you ask him, why are you referring?
I never had to ask him that.
Why?
Because I never saw any evidence that Israel tried to wipe out every single person. I just gave you examples that they tried to save civilian lives.
But I'm not,
and they
by the
didn't.
way, I'm not, as I've said, and I mean this, I think most soldiers in most armies, including the Israel Defense Force, don't want to kill civilians. I just don't believe that. I think there are some lunatics.
Can I ask you something?
Yes.
You platformed a guy, you had him on your show, Tony Aguilar.
Don't platform anyone.
Well, you interviewed.
Not a liberal,
Tony
so I don't
Aguilar.
platform people.
Okay, you interviewed Tony Aguilar.
You certainly make very interesting decisions, though, who you have on your show, Tucker, and who you actually ask questions to and are combative with. You certainly weren't combative with Nick Fuentes or a cheap pseudo-historian, but you're certainly combative here, and you seem to have a lot to say here. You're not just sort of nodding along like a fucking useless idiot like you usually do in your conversations where you know you agree with the person or care what they have to say, but not with Huckabee or Ted Cruz. It's like you know how to be combative in terrible and bad faith, but a lot of interviews you just go, just asking questions. I don't platform people. You sure do. You put them on your platform.
Who claimed that IDF soldiers killed a little boy in his presence. That didn't happen.
Okay.
It did not happen.
I don't know.
Let me
I
give you
don't
the
know
story.
if you know whether it happened or not.
Well, I can tell you why I know it didn't happen.
Okay.
Because we found that little boy less than a week later.
All right.
I was heavily involved in helping to extricate him from Gaza. 4 different countries were involved in getting he and his mother to safety, get them out of there. Tony Aguilar is a liar.
Okay.
Tony Aguilar claimed that he saw an IDF soldier shoot the little boy. He was fired from the
Right.
GHF for cause, and he begged for his job back, and they wouldn't give it back because they didn't want him. And he told them that if they didn't give his job back, that he would burn them down.
Okay.
So he goes out. No, let me finish this.
Okay,
because
no,
it's
He's so nervous, Tucker.
important for you to understand.
Right.
So this guy then goes out and makes up this story that he witnessed IDF soldiers shooting a little boy.
I don't know that he made it up. He seemed to believe it to me. It's possible he's wrong. I've been wrong many times.
Well, this is a little bit more than just missing a fact.
There's a difference between being wrong and totally fabricating and making up a whole story, and then it being fact-checked numerous times on the internet, and then ignoring those facts and then still bring them onto your show like many people did, so you could continue on with this narrative that the IDF is evil and that Israel is evil. Yeah, people get shit wrong all the time. Of course they do. And then we say sorry, we apologize, we hold ourselves accountable. But to completely make up a story is not getting something wrong. There's a huge difference.
He claimed to be an eyewitness to the murder of a little boy.
Okay.
A little boy that a week later we found.
And you're sure it's the same little boy?
We're absolutely
How
certain.
do you know that?
Because we have pictures of him. We had descriptions of him. We know his name. We know his mother.
Okay.
He was extricated out of Gaza. It was a very delicate situation to get him out, because if Hamas had found out that he was still alive, they would have killed him in order to validate Aguilar's story.
How do you know that?
So he gets out.
How do you know Hamas would have killed him?
Why wouldn't they? Wouldn't they have wanted to kill him? Because that way,
Because they're fucking terrorists, Tucker. And the more propaganda there is against IDF, the more support Hamas has, or the pro-Palestine movement has. So, of course, if they find him, they're going to kill him, so that then someone finds this young boy dead. They can say, oh, it's true, the IDF killed him. Of course they would have done that. It's part of their war strategy. It's been part of their war strategy since October 7th.
they could have said that this story was true.
Look,
that
I'm
Aguilar. I'm just telling you that
what
this
you're
kid
saying is
alive
true, and I have
today.
no basis of knowing.
Yeah.
I'm really glad, because I don't
Good.
want little kids to get killed, even 14-year-olds. Okay.
You shouldn't want anyone to
But
get
let
killed.
me ask you,
The 14-year-old point that Tucker Carlson is bringing is because Mike Huckabee said if Hamas recruits people at 14 to fight against the IDF, they should be fought if they fire their weapons. So Tucker is getting a dig at Mike Huckabee, saying, well, even if they're 14-year-olds, listen, Tucker, if there's a 15-year-old, 14-year-old, 13-year-old holding a weapon against me and firing at me, I'm going to kill that boy. I don't care how old he is. If my life is at risk, I'm going to stop that threat. Stop walking on eggshells next to people like this. Stop. If Hamas recruits them from a young age to fight civilians and to fight the IDF soldiers, they will be killed in war. They are just as much targets as Hamas because they are Hamas. That's it.
is it true he also made the claim, and he had audio of it and video too, that U.S. contractors were using live ammunition to disperse crowds, and he had video of that. Do you know did he make up that video?
There were times, here's what happened. Crowds would come toward the sites. They were given verbal warnings, and then they were given additional verbal warnings, and shots were fired either in the air, sometimes in the ground. And if they continued to come and threaten, there were times when there were people who were engaged in firefights. That happened.
Oh, they were armed?
Sometimes they were.
They were. Do you know of specific instances where they were armed?
I can probably get you some specific information about that.
I think I know the answer to that. I don't think
Okay.
there's any evidence at all that they were
But
armed.
It's so funny how he wasn't asking for evidence from Tony Aguilar, but he's asking for evidence from Mike Huckabee because questioning Mike Huckabee serves his purpose. It's just pathetic, honestly.
also know that
Yeah, good point. Good point. It's all in bad faith, and it's ridiculous. And anyone who kind of falls into the trap in believing that, Tucker is this like good Christian who has strong values and morals, just watch any video on X from Milk Bar TV showing the different sides of Tucker, how much he flip-flops, how much he gaslights, how much he contradicts himself, how much he says one thing here and then the next thing here. It's all on the internet. It's all for everyone to see. Thank God for the internet and the documentation and the digital footprint he has, so we know how much of a liar and a gaslighter he is. But it's kind of almost pathetic how many people still like value and appreciate what he has to say, even though he does almost everything in bad faith. Good point.
Are you okay with using live ammunition at aid distribution sites for families, women, and
Well,
children?
very rarely did this happen near.
How
aid
about at all?
distribution
Are you okay with that?
No. I'll tell you what I'm
You
not
seem like
okay
you're
with.
okay
No, no, no. I think you are so trying to put words in my
I'm
mouth.
not.
and that's
You
that's
said that they
very-
were firing back, but then
No,
there's
but
no evidence that they were.
on a Sunday afternoon,
Yes, there is evidence that they were. We have seen footage of Hamas firing at food distribution sites because they were not happy with the GHF distributing food, taking the control from Hamas over the civilians. They were not happy about this. And we've got video evidence to prove it. So Tucker is trying to put words in Mike Huckabee's mouth.
can remember when there was widespread reports on BBC, CNN, and the New York Times, and they said that 27 people were killed at a feeding site. We had video extensively over that site. Not one single person, not only were they not shot, nobody was shot at. There was not one bit of violence that happened at that feeding site.
You're trying to get me to defend BBC? I'm not going to do that. It's like
hope
defending Hamas. I agree with you. I don't believe anything I see in the media. It's just that it's really simple. If people are using, and these were American contractors, by the way, these are not Israeli.
I don't know about that laugh, man. I don't know about it.
Yeah, I'm aware of. American contractors run by some crypto minister or something was running the group. If they're using live ammunition at an aid distribution site, that
Well, they're still inside a war zone, so what do you expect them to do to make sure that everything is in order? If somebody comes aggressively to steal something so precious during war, which is aid, humanitarian aid, that was being stolen to control the audience of Gaza, because that's how you control them. You take the food and then you distribute the food, you sell it for overinflated prices. That's how you do it. So in order to protect that humanitarian aid, they have to have live ammunition in order to keep the order. It's still a war zone after all, Tucker.
strikes me as totally unacceptable.
They were not firing.
Does
at
it seem
crowds.
acceptable to you?
They were not firing
If
at crowds.
people got killed, there's a way
And
to.
some of those people got killed because Hamas were trying to keep them from getting to the aid distribution sites because Hamas was controlling the food. Hamas made $500 million selling the food that was supposed to be given away for
Not gonna
free.
defend Hamas.
And what they were trying to do is to keep people from going to the sites where they were getting food.
You
for
are essentially defending Hamas and running cover for them by basically disagreeing with everything he has to say and believing nothing that comes out of Huckabee's mouth. That's what you're essentially doing. You're running cover for them, for Hamas.
free. When we set GHF up,
Hamas
the
bad,
first thing that
BBC
happened,
bad.
I know,
Agreed.
but I'm telling you, the first thing that people said was, wow, this is the first time we've had food that we got for free.
Is it
because they
okay
had
to
to buy
shoot
it.
unarmed people?
I just told you it wasn't.
That's awful.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Tucker is so disingenuous, it's disgusting to see. And if you claim that people were shot at aid distribution centers, then why don't you provide the footage and the evidence? Because so many people had their phones, so many cameras were there trying to catch the Israelis in the act and trying to catch the American contractors in the act, but nobody was able to provide a single video evidence proving that people purposefully shot civilians in aid sites. Not one. So why should we believe Tucker? Why should we believe these talking points? You know what we do have, though? We have Hamas shooting at civilians at aid distribution sites. We have that. So why are you continuing to make that point? It's getting tiring, Tucker. Tucker is incredibly disingenuous in the way he asks questions, in the way he's trying to lead the conversation. Do you think it's wrong to shoot people at aid sites? Of course it's wrong. Of course it's wrong. But could you please provide us evidence that it...
Yeah, it's like him asking a question. It's like, do you think it's wrong if children die? Of course it fucking is. It's horrible. It's the worst fucking thing that could ever happen ever. Stupid. That's a bad faith question because all moral sound people believe that to be true, that it's horrible when something like that happens. Horrible, despicable, the worst. That's not the argument. That's not the conversation. That's not the foundation of the truth.
actually happened? Could you? And I don't want warning shots or shots on the ground. Actual evidence that it happened, where people were systematically targeted by IDF and GHF. And Tony Aguilar is a liar. He did lie because he was fired. He was trying to get compensation, and he said that he will go after them if they don't give him his job back. So enough with the BS. Great job, Mike Huckabee, for dealing with this guy. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.